Send Help is one of the first really great movies of 2026. I don't really want to say it's even great. It's just a lot of fun. It's a survival, psychological, horror thriller movie. Although it is kind of more dark comedy and survival than horror. This is, a perfect, cozy, quirky January release. I caught an early screening on January 24th, 6 days before it comes out January 30th. And I've been thinking about this movie, guys, since I heard about it back in 2019. Seriously, when Zombieland 2 came out, I remember there was a report that Sam Raimi was going to direct a movie that was pitched as something between Castaway and Misery. I was so excited. And I was expecting something deeply unsettling and dreadful. However, what Raimi delivered instead is a wacky, fun, and visceral movie, one that embraces his signature style while exploring character dynamics in surprising ways. Rachel McAdams plays Linda Little, an overlooked employee in her company's planning and strategy department. And she gets passed over for her promotion despite, really deserving it. And she's described with a savant with numbers. Dylan O'Brien plays Bradley Preston, her newly appointed CEO boss and complete douchebag whose father wanted him to promote Linda, but who instead treats her like she's invisible. The film's opening brilliantly establishes Linda's character. We see her apartment filled with survival books. We understand she's brilliant but socially awkward, and we get that she's deeply lonely. When a plane crash strands Linda and Bradley on a deserted island during a business trip to Bangkok, the power dynamic flips entirely. Suddenly, Linda's survival knowledge makes her indispensable, and Bradley, this cocky boss who never respected her, has to listen to everything she says. It's a perfect ironic setup. And what elevates Send Help beyond traditional, survival thriller territory is Sam Raimi's commitment to visual storytelling. This could have been a basic, competently shot two-hander. I even thought to myself, this feels like the kind of movie that would just be dumped on Netflix. But Raimi brings his entire toolkit: crash zooms, Dutch angles, match cuts, extreme close-ups, and that distinctive hovering camera work he pioneered back in The Evil Dead. Remember how Raimi and his crew literally mounted a camera to a wooden beam and had people carry it on each side to create that pre-Steadicam floating effect? That inventive, handcrafted energy is all over this movie. There are plenty of practical effects and yes, some bad CGI. There is some background island shots, but what's happening in the foreground is so engaging that I didn't really care. The story of these two characters trying to outwit each other, combined with Raimi's gorgeous camera work, kept me completely invested in how they'd escape their predicament. Both leads are really good. Rachel McAdams plays Linda with this perfect balance of quirky vulnerability and this simmering intensity. She starts out as this likable, socially awkward woman, very much in her the time traveler's wife mode. But as the film progresses, she reveals something darker. By the end, she's doing full Bruce Campbell-style manic guys from Evil Dead 2, and it's genuinely impressive to watch. She's a total beast here. Dylan O'Brien is surprisingly great as Bradley also. He plays an understated douchebag at first, but his character becomes so much more fully developed as the film goes on. The chemistry between them is vital because most of the runtime is just these two people and their dynamic, which carries the entire movie. When Linda finally has power over the boss who dismissed her, and Bradley realizes his survival depends on respecting someone he treated like shit, the tension becomes delicious. And it's because these two actors are so great that the movie is so fun. The third act is where the movie gets a bit jerky, and the movie starts to wind down. It tries to invert the Misery and Castaway formulas. Things become slightly less believable and a bit predictable. The film introduces some twists that, while different from what we've seen in other survival movies, stretch credibility a bit. However, I'll argue that within the cartoonish, heightened world Raimi has created, with all those beautiful camera angles, visceral gore, and committed performances, it does work. The violence escalates dramatically in the final act, with some brutal, handcrafted fight sequences that get genuinely nasty. There's an eye-gouging scene that's particularly painful to watch, although some people be like, it's obviously CGI. But even as things get more outlandish, I found myself vibing with it because Raimi has earned that tonal shift through sheer stylistic commitment. It's worth putting Send Help in context with Raimi's broader career. From the Evil Dead's revolutionary horror filmmaking to Darkman superhero origin story with the heavy practical effects to the Spider-Man trilogy that defined early 2000 superhero cinema to Drag Me to Hell's tight 89-minute studio horror focused on one woman's nightmare to even A Simple Plan's grounded drama about desperate people. Raimi has always explored human characters in heightened situations while pushing visual boundaries. Send Help continues that tradition. It's an old school movie in the best sense. Limited characters, small set pieces, but maximum tension derived from character dynamics rather than spectacle. The film shares Drag Me to Hell's DNA, focused, character-driven, and unafraid to be both funny and disturbing. You know, a movie that just came out a couple weeks ago, Primate, was a recent killer monkey movie. People were saying that was schlocky fun, and they really liked it. One of my friends said, you know, it was so good, I wish you give it a second chance. I disagree. That movie felt shallow and one note, despite, you know, having some stylish moments. It was all surface to me with no substance. Send Help has genuinely good characters, strong visual storytelling, and thematic depth about workplace dynamics, gender, and power. If you're going to make a campy, schlocky survival movie, at least make it as stylish and character-focused as this. I just thought this was a perfectly suited for a January release. This isn't a big, broad horror movie. It's quirky, cozy, oddball, knows exactly what it is. At 113 minutes, it could probably be trimmed by about 10 minutes in the middle section, where it drags just slightly. But, you know, overall, this is Sam Raimi proving that, you know, even if he's 66 years old, he can do this kind of movie. He's really good at it. Rachel McAdams is great. Dylan O'Brien is really great. You know, Raimi's direction is visually inventive as ever. If you're a Sam Raimi fan, you'll love this. If you want genuinely good characters in your survival thrillers, you'll appreciate this. And if you just want a fun time at the movies with gorgeous cinematography, practical gore effects, and two actors giving their all, Send Help absolutely delivers. So go check this movie out when it comes out on Friday, guys. Thank you so much for watching.